Hello, I'm Jaymie White with Global Diversity News. On today's podcast, we discuss Isaiah Washington's protest idea and the Black experience in America. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment on the video and enjoy the podcast. I think the biggest problem that America has just in general is the fact that people are just protesting because they're angry. So they're just protesting to protest, but there's really no solution. Okay, we stay at home for what exactly? What are we trying to accomplish? For example, everybody wants to do the whole bus boycott piece, but that made sense because you were protesting, an organization, or you were boycotting the whole busing system, so they were losing revenue. So once they lost revenue, they were forced to let people sit wherever they want because they need that revenue. If people don't go to work, they're losing their income, like you just said. I mean, people are still going to work during the busing boycotts. People were still going to work during these protests when that were happening in the '60s. Telling people not to go to work is that's just not possible for people in certain situations, like you just said. What do you think?
Sounds good. I agree wholeheartedly. You can't. And now, let me say this: if he said he brings up the fact that, hey, me and my other celebrity friends will pay for you all to stay at home for that one day, then there's a solution to this problem.
Is it though? What
Like
happens if your employee? You said it. What happens if your employee doesn't like
well,
that?
then that's another thing. You want to get paid, but you're also taking the risk of losing your job too. You would also have to get into politically. Maybe talk to the maybe your state representative or somebody to maybe excuse them, but that's not going to happen. So this idea, it sounds good, but it's not really possible. It can't really be. It can't be effective because people are about to lose out on a lot of money and lose out on jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
So you heard, yes, you protested. It's a great idea. But shit, now you got people who are out of work. Now they struggling. They ain't got no way to pay their kids. Now what is most likely? They got to go start hustling. For people with that mindset, oh, I got to go hustle. A woman may say, oh, I got to go sell my body. So you just fuck up things even worse.
Yeah, man. I mean, what is one of the biggest stereotypes of Black people? We're lazy.
We're lazy.
Yeah. So your
Put
idea
don't
to
read.
yeah. Well, main point here is lazy because so your big idea for a protest is to confirm or reaffirm people's ideas of Black people. Uh, you want to grab everybody's attention. So what do? Let's not go to work. What?
Well, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, what? So what happens if I'm a restaurant owner? I'm a small business. And you know me, I'm always big on small businesses and entrepreneurship. What if you run a small business, and what if you run a restaurant, or if you run, some type of tea shop, or a local grocery? You're not supposed to open up. What happens if I'm a Black couple and my local restaurant, which is Black owned, doesn't open up because we all protesting?
Yeah.
What if you're a Black doctor and you're really good at your job and somebody gets shot that day? You're not supposed to go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. That doesn't.
He didn't think about that before he said
Nah,
it.
he didn't.
And that's the thing. You can't just put those words out into maybe out to the universe without thinking about them, because now you made people start thinking about actually doing this, and some people may actually really do this shit.
I mean, they
They're not
can.
thinking about the consequences.
Yeah, I mean,
They're not going to think about the consequences of their actions.
yeah, I mean, this is just.
And the first person you're going to blame is, basically you, because I'm like, shit, never listen to this guy. You lose all credibility if somebody loses their job doing what you said do.
I mean, he lost credibility when he gave that idea. Again, I go back to my original point, which is people are protesting without actually understanding why they're protesting or what they're trying to accomplish. Because if you're trying to raise awareness, again, there's no need. We shouldn't be protesting to raise awareness. Awareness has been raised. Everybody knows what's going on at this point, and maybe not everybody. Let me not say that. Maybe not everybody, but people know that the black community, quote unquote, have issues with police brutality. They have issues with uh, wealth, criminal justice system, etc. Like those issues have been raised, and people are well aware of them. Trying to make people understand or see something from your perspective is almost impossible. So if you're trying to get people to understand where you're coming from, you've lost already. So you're not going to accomplish that. Like, what exactly are you trying to accomplish? You're trying to prove a point? Well, what point is that? Because proving a point doesn't create solutions. You know, that's just a terrible
Yeah.
idea. And then another thing that I was actually thinking about this the other day is like, I don't understand. I just really don't understand what these protests are trying to accomplish. I understand people are mad, but protesting, don't protest unless you have an idea on what the solution is. Because the thing about people protesting police brutality is blacks have been protesting police brutality since the 60s. And ain't nothing changed. Well, I mean, it's gotten better. Let me take that 100% back. But in terms of like our ideas of protesting just haven't changed. And ultimately, we just go through this ridiculously idiotic cycle, which is something happens, we protest, it eventually leads to some weird riot that destroys our communities, then we all go back home. And something happens.
You, you, you know
Yeah.
what? Killer Mike, he spoke at a conference in Atlanta. I think it was maybe yesterday. But well, it may have been yesterday. But what? That's beside the point. I saw his, some of the things he was talking about at the conference,
hmm
and he said black people are not ready for a revolt, a revolution. He said they should stop saying that shit, and he gave reasons why. He asked the audience. He said, "How many of you all grow your own food or have a garden?" A few people raised their hands. Then he said, "How many of you all know how to shoot or go shooting?" Well, a few people raised their hands. And then he said, "How many of you all know a form of a martial art?" Another few people raised their hands. He said, "This is the problem. You're asking for a revolution, but you can't feed, fight, nor clothe yourselves.
Okay, I gotta
You
cut in with that.
still."
I gotta cut in with that. That's just 100% wrong. Generally, if you even look
You
at
said it's
history,
wrong?
yeah, generally, even if you look at history, when it comes to revolts, the reason why people revolt is because they don't have those things, like they can't grow their own food. And usually the people who revolt are farmers. Like, for example, look at the Cuban Revolution. It was led by Che Guevara, who was a doctor, and Fidel Castro, who was a politician. How many guns did they ever shot in their lives? And they didn't have the resources to grow their own food
But
or anything.
they 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 didn't. They may not have the full resources, but they tried to do some of these things on their own.
Yeah, no,
We're relying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're relying on the system. Like when you hate the fact that gentrification is happening in a lot of urban communities. However, you're really not. You really don't care that much about it because you're fucking up your community daily through crime, pollution. You just don't really care about your communities, but you complain when it happens. So he's like, stop. I mean, which I agree with him. Stop saying let's revolt because we're not ready to revolutionize shit. Like you said, man, you have a protest one day, and tomorrow you're back at your job doing the same thing. If the protest is over, all right, cool. Michael Brown got killed. All right, cool.
protest.
Let's go back to doing right. Yeah, I
Mm.
mean, it's protest for a few weeks. All right, cool. It's over with. Let's go back to watching TV. Instead of like, okay, it's more than just bringing attention to the matter. Now we have to figure out ways to go about fixing them and like preventing this shit from constantly happening.
Yeah, man, we've talked about this before. Like,
Yeah,
no
I mean, yeah,
plan.
yeah.
Yeah, no plan, and nothing's gonna happen without a dedicated plan and dedicated people to be a part of that plan. You know, and the easy part, protesting is the easy part. Like, if this was a 10-step program in terms of how to get, quote unquote, the black or just minorities in general, underrepresented groups, to grant them more power as America grows, as America becomes more diversified, because that's going to be
Hmm.
necessary. Because people like the population that's going to need these skills in order to take America to the next level, in 50 to 60, 50, to 100 years, they just don't have that knowledge right now. And, we're going to have a knowledge shortage, coming up pretty soon. Or when I say pretty soon, I mean the next, again, 50 to 100 years, unless we do something about it. But in order for that to happen, like there's a 10-step process, and protesting is step point five. Like, in my opinion,
Yeah.
like that's not even when I think of ways to help underrepresented groups who feel disenfranchised or whatnot, gain power or gain respect or whatever they're looking for. Protest doesn't even come to my mind. Like that's not even
Shit, doesn't.
no, because where see what people don't understand is that even though it's not as great as you would like it, like our rights as an underrepresented group or as a minority or whatever, or even as females, our rights are protected now. People look at the 60s and the 70s and say we have to do what they did. No, they had to do what they did because their rights weren't protected. Like, you literally didn't have the right to go to the same bathroom or the same restaurant or work in the same places as someone else. When you don't have that right, you
Right,
have
right.
to raise the word. You have to protest. You have to be willing to get out in front of a cop with a gun to your face and say, "Look, I want my right." Like, because
I see
again,
you. Yeah.
and now our rights are protected, so we have the option of doing what every other American, in power is doing, and that's we can create our own businesses. We can, establish our own industries if we will. We could do this with them, and I mean, there are banks out there. There are tons and tons of organizations that are out there that are willing to grant, minorities and women and what have you, underrepresented groups money so that they can create their own jobs. They can create their own industries, create their own businesses, make money, live a happy life, and you know establish wealth within their families and their communities. Like that's why when I just don't understand this whole protesting because it's like what can't you do?
Mm.
Like the police do
Yeah.
like yeah, like it's okay, look, man, I'm 100% with you on the whole with everybody else on the whole like court system and how I mean it's racist. Like, let's just put it out there. There's just way too many black people and Latinos in jail versus the population breakdown. Like it is ridiculous. I'll give you that one, right? But have a concerted effort to do something about that. Protesting isn't going to fix the justice system.
I mean, even with the NFL protest, it's like the protest is. I heard it best. They said it was a marketing. It was a marketing tool. A protest is a marketing tool, and it gets the
Yeah,
point. It gets
yeah, it
the
raises
message
awareness.
across.
It raises awareness.
And that's the thing. Like, you can't keep just raising awareness. It has to be step two. And we've seen. I mean, not even gonna say we, because it seems as though step one is like everlasting. Like it's we can't go beyond step one.
Because people don't know how, or
And
people don't want to.
I don't think they I
Remember,
I don't think they know how.
people love
Oh,
to
but I don't think
complain.
they want to at the same time.
Yeah, people love to complain. Look at Twitter. That's one of the big reasons why Twitter
Yeah.
blew up. People love to complain.
Even the black, like I ain't into it that much, but the black Twitter, I don't really know much about it at all. But
It's
And
still
when I hear the black Twitter, I mean, that's like you said, complain, and that's how I think. Like you said, complain. That's why I think Black Lives Matter, where that whole campaign came from. I mean, you're tired of everything, so you're complaining about it. I mean, not complaining negatively, but I'm saying you're complaining about what's going on and how you're frustrated about things. But it still doesn't seem like you got beyond the complaining.
right.
And are you truly that worried about this topic?
Right. I think
I
people.
mean, I even asked myself that. I mean, if I was truly worried, like, wouldn't I be doing more?
I mean,
Wouldn't
so
I be on the forefront fighting for going to the meetings and, hey, making my voice known? I'm tired of the killing in Chicago. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. But then it's like, damn, I'm just sitting there like, I'm tired of it. Like even today, let me give you a prime example. Today at work, Tuesday, they were shooting on the block we working on. Today, it was a big shootout on the block we working on. And it's just like, you just seeing kids walking up and down the block. Only thing you're doing is seeing these kids doing the same killing, doing the same stuff. But it's kind of like, what am I saying to these kids? I ain't saying nothing to them, just walking past, hey, good morning, man, how you doing? That's it. So it's like, I'm complaining about it, but I'm not.
I mean,
After the complaint, what comes next?
what you're talking about is something completely different than what's
I
going
mean,
on
true.
nationally, because they're talking about like police brutality, which you know, whatever.
But like you said,
But
that's that shit is going on for years, and it's kind of like, yes, police brutality. This shit is horrible. It's horrible. I mean, you can't, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But we got to fix ourselves first.
well, I mean, yeah, that's big, and I just want to make something very clear. Like, I'm not under, I guess appreciating or underrepresenting the horrors of police brutality. But what I'm saying is,
Oh yeah, yeah,
we
I
we've been
agree.
we've been
I agree.
protesting for 60 years about this. Like, don't you guys? Doesn't everybody? I think we all as a black community come together and say maybe we should think of trying to do something else.
You know, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's an article out there floating around saying that 5 Latino boys were killed by police this past week as well. But you don't hear about any protests going on or big uproar about that.
Latino
And you
community.
don't.
So
It's like,
so let's make
I
some.
don't know, Jamie. Like,
Well, the
I don't
Hispanic
know.
community isn't as what's it called? They're
What
not
you say,
as
woke?
no, I'm not gonna say that. The Hispanic community isn't as together as the black community is. And the reason being is because what's been under it, remember when you sent me that article, there's a lot of truth to that, in that the Hispanic community, a lot of them have had different experiences. So even within that
True.
breakdown, like the Mexican experience in America is very different than the Puerto Rican experience in America. The Cuban experience in America is very different than the Spanish, people from Spain, that experience in America. So because of that, when things like that happen, they're not as together as the black experience has always been pretty pretty much
Screwed
the
up.
same. Yeah, pretty well, not screwed up, pretty much the same. And, that's why, like, even with Native Americans, like the Native American experience, every tribe has pretty much experienced the same shit.
I feel you saying on that.
Yeah, so that's kind of why they're a little bit. That's kind of why when something happens to one black person, we feel like it happens to all. It can happen to all black people.
Hmm.
Versus if it happens
That's a
to,
good point. That's
and
a good point.
and this is just my experience with talking to people in the Latin community. Like, if it happens to a Mexican, it'd be like, you're Puerto Rican. It might be like, well, it's Mexicans.
Mm.
You know,
But okay, you say that,
similar to
then
white people, when it's like if it happens to like an Irish guy and I'm Italian, it's like, well, he's Irish.
what you say the same about how we as African Americans have the same feeling when it comes to things that go on in Africa
I mean,
or dealing with Africans. I mean, things that go on is something that deals with Africans. Like, okay,
we're
not
not.
saying like a police brutality, but I mean,
What's the
we're
guy who
not.
did that documentary? I know where you're going. I know where you're going with. What's the guy who did that documentary? That you showed me.
Who?
Jeez, Hidden Colors.
Oh yeah. Okay.
What's his name?
What about it? The creator of it?
Yeah, what was his name? Yeah, man. Let me look this up.
Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed.
Exactly. So he actually answered that question that you're about to answer, which is why African Americans kind of aren't connected with that whole African continent and what happens on in Africa. He labeled African Americans as we're our own like group now. We've been away from Africa too long. We've had our own set of experiences for hundreds and hundreds of years that we're now our own group. So because we're our own group, we don't have that connection. Africa is a separate continent. That's a separate group of people than what we were. Because if somebody from Africa comes over here, their past 300 to 400 years of experiences do not match ours. We have absolutely no similarities
Mm-hmm.
other
Yeah,
than
that's
our
true.
race. So because of that, we don't understand each other in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't understand each other at all.
Yeah, we have more in common with people from like the Caribbean. We probably in the last 300 years have more in common with people from the Latino community than we do from people from Africa. So, but he was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, but he was like, yeah, we're our own, like at this point, we're our own subgroup. So, and I mean, there's always going to be this whole like back to Africa movement within, the black community, just because, historically, I mean, that's just where we're from. And, for a lot of people, that's where everybody's from. But, for African Americans, that's essentially where we're from. But even in knowing that and even in talking about that, there's always going to be that disconnect. So if something happens in Africa, we're never going to take it to heart the way people from Africa are. And I mean, let's be real with that. African Americans do not have a good historically. African Americans shouldn't have a good history with Africa because, as we know, a lot of African Americans. The reason why we got sent to America is because we were either kidnapped by other Africans or we lost wars,
Right.
and then we got sold.
Right.
But I mean, the only time that I really see, well, there's a couple of times when people do have that back to Africa movement, but another one in addition to that would be when people are trying to express their like natural or trying to accept like their natural, skin tone and hair and body shapes and whatnot. Then you'll hear the whole African tone or like Africa's beautiful because since that's our continent or whatever, our original continent, people want to showcase that beauty and get that across that it's okay to be in your natural beauty, skin or whatever. So I'll hear it during that
Yeah.
too. But yeah, man. I mean, it gets
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no. I mean, yeah, it gets pretty deep and quite honestly pretty sad when you really look at the history of Black Americans. We're just in this weird group where you know even when you have like Europeans and they have like the whole I'm Polish or wherever they're from, they in some way in some way they have some type of family roots that they can trace back, right? However limited
Yeah.
in some way, whereas
All right.
black Americans just don't. And I do think that that's like that that's the whole black experience in America. The whole unique experience that we have. And I also think that's why nobody can or will ever understand where we're coming from. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Again, please like, subscribe, and comment on the podcast. And check us out at globaldiversitynews.com. Take care.